Hi everybody, this is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Tuesday, April the 9th, and welcome to our video commentary. You know, a few months ago, Major League Baseball and the Cuban government made a deal to bring Cuban ball players to the United States. The deal was done between Major League Baseball in the United States and the Cuban Federation of Baseball in Cuba. Now, of course, the Cuban Federation of Baseball is not an independent private organization like is Major League Baseball. So it was not really apples with apples, but nevertheless, the deal was made. Now, many of us objected to that deal because what the deal basically said is that the Cuban baseball player comes to the United States, and when he signs a contract with an American team, a portion of that money has to go to the Cuban Federation Baseball, the Cuban Baseball Federation, which is frankly another way of saying the money goes to the Cuban government and rather than to the family or to the player. Cuba has done this with other professionals like doctors when they send, let's say, doctors to Brazil, and then the Brazilian government pays the Cuban government directly, and then the Cuban government pays the families or the doctors in Cuban currency. So for the Cuban government, this is a great deal because they're getting dollars and they're spending pesos, or they're paying pesos, Cuban pesos, to the doctors and their families. In the case of the major leaguers, of course, it's an even bigger deal because the money is larger. I mean, when you're talking about Major League Baseball, you're talking about larger sums of money. Now, a lot of us opposed it on the grounds that the player was not really free to negotiate. Basically, he had to pay the Cuban Federation a portion of his salary rather than keep it for himself. Well, I'm glad to see that President Trump has killed the deal. President Trump stepped up, his administration stepped up and said, no, this deal is not going to go through. You know, I'm kind of surprised, frankly, that Major League Baseball did it in the first place, particularly the Players Union. The Players Union has always been very protective of the players, and I'm kind of surprised they went along with this, but I guess they thought that this was the only alternative. The argument for having done this is that right now Cuban players have to defect the country, and they have to go to a third country, and there they can be signed, as recent players were signed in Central America and so on. I mean, that is a valuable argument. But the bottom line is that the Cuban government is using Major League Baseball players or baseball players as a source of cash for itself, rather than letting Major League Baseball or Cuban players negotiate directly with Major League teams. So this is a good one for President Trump. I'm glad to see that he stopped this. This was a bad deal from the very beginning. And of course, looking at it politically, I'm sure that it's going to help him a great deal in Florida in 2020. Thank you for watching. We have all of these on YouTube, on Twitter, and on my blog. And if today is your birthday, happy birthday. Bye-bye, everybody.